Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. Over the last couple weeks, we've seen the markets breaking out in a tremendous way. Many of the altcoins that have been in sustained downtrends have started to lead the markets, and this is exactly what we wanted to see moving forward as we get closer towards our end of the year timeframes. As we get closer towards the end of this year, I'm expecting a lot of really bullish things to be playing out. Many people that are taking long-term approaches right now are going to set themselves up tremendously for the future of this cycle, and I'm going to be explaining to you guys exactly what I'm watching for personally over these next few months and which cryptos I'm going to be looking to accumulate in that time. If you're new and just find this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys sign up and join the Discord server of over 21,000 members and growing. On top of that, you can also go ahead and download my free ebook. Links are in the description for both. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Now, a lot of you guys maybe are wondering why I didn't upload last week, and that was just simply because I have been super sick, and I'm still a little bit sick, but I'm good enough that I can actually record a video. I had a lot of congestion inside my lungs, and so I just wasn't even able to get on here and talk. So with me going through this, you might see a lot of cut editing. That's just because I may be coughing or looking to get a little bit of water in the meantime. But with that being said, guys, I'm also just so excited looking inside of these charts, seeing everything that we needed to see sort of transpiring along to our trading plan. Now, as you guys can see by our last video, we got above our red resistance here. Now, this is taking us right back into contact of really the first target that I was personally watching for if we could get above this resistance here. And that was about 4,300 on the SPX. Now, this is going to be an interesting point because we've gone a pretty long period of time without having any sort of a pullback. So we are going to expect to see a little pullback inside the markets. So if you've been holding, maybe you bought Ethereum, maybe you accumulated some of these cryptos and you're up in a decent amount of percentage, maybe it's a good time to take some short-term profit because, we will ultimately get an opportunity to buy dips. And this is a big thing I want you guys to remember here. As we're inside of this point of the cycle where we just had such a big sell-off on the downside, Bitcoin sold off, altcoins sold off, and when we're looking in terms of where Bitcoin and altcoins ended up, Bitcoin went in back inside of a previous all-time high of a last cycle. Never been done before, never been seen before. Ethereum did the same thing, altcoins did the same thing, and it was a very volatile time. Now, for the people that didn't actually take the time to accumulate, and they're watching the whole market bounce, they're seeing this big move on the upside in the stock market, and now they're feeling left out, like they need to hurry and get in. Well, the best thing to do is obviously wait for some type of a pullback. And the most obvious thing is when we're looking at this chart, notice here that we've gone, about 15% without any sort of a major pullback. This isn't really a giant pullback. This was more of a consolidation phase over here, but we haven't seen anything like that along this entire way up. And so now that we're above this resistance here, and we're getting back into contact with our next one, I really would not be surprised to see us get a pullback that comes back down, and then we ultimately cement whether or not this previous resistance is going to act as support. If we can flip this prior level, that's going to set a lot of upwards price action inside the markets, and that would be an opportunity to be looking into buying the market. But keep in mind, guys, that the way that we're viewing these is more of a zone. And so, in my opinion, we could go back down to just under 4,100 as well. And we could see a deeper correction back in here. And it doesn't really change the big picture of what is taking place. If we see that correction, you're better off having a little bit of money on the sidelines to buy that dip than you are buying right now as the markets are going upwards into resistance. Especially at this point in the cycle, there is always going to be an opportunity to get in the market. And if you were too scared to get in over the last couple months, we still have the whole rest of this year. Even if we experience a big breakout over the next month to a month and a half, overall there is always going to be corrections that follow after that point. And so while my ultimate advice to anybody that's watching this is always just to, at this point in the cycle, I think the best thing that we can do is just simply stick to our trading plan. If you're bullish on a crypto, if you have a lot of belief that it's going to do well in the next cycle, then you shouldn't worry so much about the short-term price action, and you should just recognize that, hey, you know, we're down massively from the all-time highs. This is going to be a good opportunity to get in, especially if we're dealing in hindsight. And so that's kind of my thoughts when we're dealing with the SPX. Ultimately, I would wait for some type of a pullback in here, but don't hesitate to start buying once the pullback takes place. Now, when we're looking in terms of Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin has not had the same type of a move to the upside. And I think that that's largely just due because there's a lot of fear inside of the crypto markets. Like I stated at the beginning, Bitcoin for the first time ever came all the way back down and retested within a previous all-time high. We went all the way back down to 17,000 and a half. So that was a deep correction on the downside. And it was followed after, you know, what a lot of people, including myself, was just not the same type of a bull run or the same size of a bull run that we would expect to see if we were looking at the prior trend. And so I think a lot of people are pretty shaken out in a big way for the most part. But I believe that that will change very soon. Even if the stock market gets this correction in here and then Bitcoin pulls back, whatever that type of a dip looks like, that would be the one that you would want to ultimately get in. Because I do believe that Bitcoin over the next month and a half to 2 months will make its way upwards of about $30,000. And I think it could even have a higher move, potentially up to 40,000, but a lot of that is just, you know, in due with the SPX. What's going to happen as we're getting closer to the midterm elections this year, and what I should say, the rest of this year is going to be a pretty volatile time. And so I think that the majority of what we should expect to see is more accumulation structure. Even if we get a big bounce to the upside, we rally upwards of 30 and 40K, there's going to be some type of a pullback that follows after that. And so no matter what, you're going to get opportunities to get back in the market. And I think that the big focus should be 2023 regardless. But that's kind of what I see in the short term. We're just slightly off of the lows for the most part. When we're looking in terms of what Ethereum is doing, Ethereum's outperforming Bitcoin. And so I think that the best thing is obviously wait for some type of a pullback. But when the pullback happens, don't hesitate to pull the trigger. There's going to be opportunities inside of the market that flash themselves for the people that just simply wait and look to find those opportunities when they present themselves. Now, when we're looking in terms of Ethereum, notice how large of a move Ethereum has already had to the upside. In fact, Ethereum is following much closer to what the SPX is doing. If we're looking in terms of where our previous resistance was, this was our previous support, I should say, became resistance over this point. And then if we're looking where what Ethereum is doing, it's pretty much following the SPX, right? It got above this major resistance. And so Bitcoin's way below it. Ethereum's already above it. And so that's showing that money is flowing more into Ethereum. And I thought that that was a very interesting point because it's not something most people would expect, especially at the early point of a cycle. And that's what tells me that the rest of this year is going to ultimately give us more volatility because at the very bottom of a market cycle, Bitcoin will outperform. And so I still expect that that's going to be a trend that plays out into our next cycle, even though I'm extremely bullish on the long-term prospect of Ethereum actually outperforming Bitcoin. But in the earliest point of the cycle, Bitcoin will kind of lead the charge. All of that money kind of cycles back into Bitcoin and then trickles back into the rest of the cryptos in the market. And so even in the short term, we're seeing this big rise in Ethereum. Overall, I do believe that when we get this correction to the downside, it's going to be more volatile and the gains will kind of equal themselves out. Eventually, Bitcoin will pick up and it will make a big move to the upside and it will actually outperform Ethereum. But when we're looking in the terms of the ETH-BTC pair, ETH-BTC looks phenomenal right now. And this is what gives me a lot of confidence that me actually holding so much Ethereum. I've always believed in Ethereum. I've always felt like it was the best thing to buy aside from Bitcoin. And now I'm being rewarded for doing that, especially now in this early point in the bear market. Especially now as we're getting later and later towards our 4-year cycle timeframes. Now when we're looking at the ETH-BTC pair, we can see that we've had such a large move off of these lows. As ETH has actually bounced, we're actually seeing the ETH-BTC pair making a large rally, almost back up to our range highs that we were at. clear back in May of 2021, and then all the way here of December of 2021. And so with us being back at this level, I think it's showing that there's a lot of strength still inside of this market. And when we're looking at this chart, I mean, the one thing that ETH never really did was have a market cycle. And I've made this very clear throughout my analysis for a long time. This is just accumulation that is taking place. We have never actually had a new cycle. And that's what tells me that this next cycle for crypto could be one where it actually is the retail adoption, because it looks like the altcoins never really had a true cycle. And it would make sense to me that in the retail cycle, where all of the retail mania goes crazy, it would be more like an altcoin cycle, because that's where people like to focus. Anybody that's new getting into the markets that's a retail investor, they're either getting in there for NFTs or altcoins. And so when altcoins are going crazy, all I really have to go off of was what 2017 was like, and everybody was focused on altcoins. Nobody wanted to buy Bitcoin, everybody wanted altcoins. And I believe that we will have a similar type of cycle where all of this retail money comes in. We have on-ramps like never before. I just don't think that this cycle here was that. But I believe that the next one coming will be that next cycle. The next one's coming is going to be insanely profitable. And that's going to be the one where we see tons of this retail money start to flood in here. And I believe that the charts are telling us this. The reason why ETH BTC never truly had a new all-time high and a big breakout into a new cycle is because what we're doing is merely just accumulating, preparing for that big euphoric type of move. And so this is kind of what I'm watching for inside the markets. Regardless, when we're looking at the price action itself, we've had nice volume, especially inside of this move here. We did have a lot of declining volume pretty much throughout this entire distribution period. But after us coming all the way back down and hitting this trend line, we saw that we got a bunch of new buy volume that stepped in. And so even while we're kind of tapering off again, it doesn't really change anything. What that tells me is there is plenty of money that is willing to step in here on this trend. And when we're looking in terms of what this trend line basically means, this is where we're seeing all of the volume picking up. Every time we're bouncing off this trend line, we're seeing the volume pick up. We distance ourselves from this trend line. The market wasn't quite ready to outperform in that way. We fall back down, we hit that trend line again, and what happens? Buyers step back in the market. And so what that tells me is that there is going to be a cycle inside of this market. And what we've been in is just a long period of accumulation. And it's pretty much just creating this type of a move just over here, right? And we should expect to see a cycle that plays out like this. And if you remember in that 2017 cycle, this was the 2017 move when Bitcoin first broke all-time highs. All of the altcoins outperformed, and that was the best that they performed. Was at the very beginning of when Bitcoin first made new all-time highs. And then it was this move here was when all of the altcoins pulled back, Bitcoin pulled back, but then Bitcoin actually started making new all-time highs again, and altcoins were making lower lows. And then we see here that this was the top of the 2017 cycle. Bitcoin peaked at 20K, altcoins peaked. They all made a higher high, but altcoins underperformed Bitcoin in that final blow off top. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the next cycle that's coming. Is something similar to what we saw there, where we get this big euphoric move to the upside, right? That is probably going to be the early point of our next cycle when the Bitcoin first makes new all-time highs, altcoins first outperform it, and then we might follow the same pattern once again where we make a lower high type of structure, right? And we end up doing something like this. These are the things that I'm personally watching out for because this entire cycle is just accumulation. And I don't believe that we're at a point where we've seen any sort of major cycle top yet. And so what that tells me is when we're looking at all of these charts that I shared with you guys, let's actually jump into one final one. Let's talk about this. I've briefly mentioned this chart, but what I'm trying to summarize to you guys is where we are at in the big picture is just right here. When we're looking in terms of that first cycle for the altcoins, we are just right here where we just exited the accumulation. We made our first new all-time high and we're just consolidating near those previous all-time highs. That is exactly the same thing that we're at today. We broke out of the accumulation, we went to new all-time highs, and we're just consolidating above those previous all-time highs. And this is the move that's coming, this big 2017 type of alt season. And I believe that this is happening because of the fact we have just not seen true euphoria, and we didn't see true euphoria in our last cycle. It wasn't quite there. We didn't see our major adoption like I would expect to see. But I believe that we're closer and closer to that point than ever before. And what we're seeing inside of these charts is that's what it's telling us. We've only went through accumulation on the ETH BTC pair. Yeah, we had a cycle here, but we haven't had one for the last 3-4 years, right? And so I don't believe that this chart's over by any means. I don't believe that Bitcoin's done with its cycles by any means. I just believe that where we're at is literally right here, awaiting our next major move into this coming cycle. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to hype you guys up, wanted to give you guys some updates. It's been a little while. Sorry, I've been sick. Expect frequent uploads throughout the rest of this week. Back to my YouTube schedule. Thank you guys so much for the support of this channel. Thank you guys so much for the people that are still here watching. I know how much toxic comments you guys have to deal with. I know how much crap you guys have to see. I know how much of it you guys have to see because I have to go through and manually sort through the comments to keep out all of the bots and scammers that are constantly posting random phishing links and stuff. And so I have to go through and see all of that. And I want you guys to understand that with me seeing all of this, it's nothing new. I've seen this since my time in crypto. It's nothing new. It's just more frequent than ever before. And so for you guys that are just new here, maybe you're getting discouraged seeing all of the negative comments. Maybe you don't know what to think. Maybe you're starting to question yourself, question other people, question your trading plan. Just understand that this is just the way that the emotions work. Every time the market is down, people are angry. When the market's up, everybody goes into euphoria. Everybody's happy, congratulating you, and showing ultimate respect. And so it doesn't really change anything. The emotions will always fluctuate. But at the end of the day, when we stick to our trading plan, when we stick to our analysis, what the markets and the charts are showing us is that we're getting ready for this next cycle and to make a ton of money. And so anybody that's just been supporting this channel, that stuck through it, kept watching my videos, kept commenting under my videos, kept showing all of that love and appreciation, just understand that I appreciate you guys so much. I'm watching all those comments, I'm seeing them, and it really does mean a lot. I'm here to make this content for you guys, for the people that truly just want to understand what these markets are doing. And I want you guys to know that I am 100% motivated and continuing to do that. Now, as ever before, getting ready into this next cycle, I'm more motivated than ever before, and I'm just really excited to see what you guys are able to do with your trading plans. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and thank you guys so much for the support. I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.